Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's shitty. Guys, as I'm getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and as I'm seeing the joy in the comments and such, and the relief that people feel when I stand up for Rainbowism, when I try and stand up for our new democracy and stand up for, the good side of South Africa that too often just doesn't get the recognition it deserves. That's such a huge blessing. But now I'm starting to feel the burden of a responsibility just to say that just because I stand up for Rainbowism and just because I try and stand up for the good in this nation doesn't mean that I want to represent a Rainbowism that is divorced from reality. Okay? If we are to have a truly fruitful nation and a truly fruitful rainbow nation, or whatever it is we end up being, I believe that we have to have deep, deep, deep roots. A deep watering of the plants to the very bottom, in the dark places. I don't want the kind of rainbowism that is kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya, without addressing the things we have to address in the recent past and in the past then, not just apartheid, but even before that. Do you get what I'm saying? We've come a long way, and there's still a long way to go, and it's so difficult for me to say it elegantly, so I'm going to ask you for grace as you listen to this one, because it's nice to be like, hey, stay away from my nation, and this is what's pretty, and that is what's pretty. Talking about the difficult isn't as romantic, right? So, I'm going to play you a clip here for a second, and I hope that you will look at it as a metaphor for South Africa. I hope that you will look at the little boy who's about to climb up the mountain as a metaphor for us trying to climb and build the nation we dream of. And when he falls and stumbles, his immature little sister, highly intelligent and articulate, but immature and not really wise and helping the situation, as that voice, that this is what should be doing better, and this is what, okay? And then listen to the dad. And I hope the dad will be the voice, not just of our freedom fighters, but for everybody who's ever loved this nation, and to the highest version of ourselves, each of ourselves as individuals. I hope he will be that voice. Okay? Okay. So here it is from the movie Captain Fantastic. And of course, it's going to do that just as I'm trying to record a video.
Dad, give us the mission.
Mission, rescue Mom!
Training in 10 minutes. Ralph, you flex your fingers?
STOP.
Okay, imagine that's us every time we've stumbled.
Stay calm, think, observe, and plan.
If you hit the rocks below you, you'll die from blunt force trauma. Or internal bleeding from massive bone fracturing. Or splenic flexure of the large intestine.
Yes, thank you, Sarge.
I can't, my hand.
There's no cavalry. No one will magically appear and save you in the end. Almost. got it. Good boy.
Hot.
All right, let's go.
Could you see that as a metaphor for our nation? A metaphor? We've come so far and how much further we still have to climb. And that we might have to do it with broken hands, bare broken hands. And that there's no cavalry. So for people who might not know what cavalry is, it's knights in shining armor on the horses. Okay, let's put it that way. There's no cavalry coming to save you. There's no fairy godmother. You're on your own, kid. You always have been. Okay? On a national level. You, South Africa, who made human chains during the looting. You, South Africa, who made human chains during the flooding. You, South Africa, who, when Cape Town has no water, Joburg sends. When Joburg has no water, Cape Town sends. You're on your own, kid. Okay? And the journey has not been easy, and it's been exacerbated by all kinds of politics and by the voices, and often the voices are of your own race, ne? Spiritually immature people. Guys, I genuinely tried to make a video in where I compared everybody, just since 1910 up till now, who has come to violate our nation. And it's just too much footage to show. It's just too much. Guys, it's just far too much for me to feel I can say it elegantly at this stage. Okay? So I'm going to try and just say the metaphor. I've just used South Africa as, the little boy trying to climb the mountain, injured. My next metaphor is to be the little child trafficked by his parents, then saved by another parent, adopted by a new foster parent, and then trafficked again, and then taken to his biological uncle, and then trafficked some more. That's the kind of metaphor I'm trying to draw from so many different sources. But to do that with all the nuance of saying, hey, there are themes here between what the ANC is doing and what apartheid has done, and themes between them and what Britain did, but then to go through all the nuance of saying, just because I'm drawing parallels thematically doesn't mean that the quantity of what was done was equal. But you know what? If someone is coming for your child, guys, if someone's coming for your child, do you care if it's a rich predator or a poor predator? Right? Would you care whether it's a scully on the street or whether it's someone with the funding of Epstein? That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to draw a parallel between different predators and country traffickers of our nation. But to bear all that nuance in mind without being unfair to the racial context, it's just a bit more than I can handle at the moment. Right? It's a bit more than I can elegantly say about 124 years without demonizing all those who shouldn't be demonized. And it's a lot. It's just a lot. Okay? So I think I'm going to try and say it like this. Bottom line, 10 class groups in our country, right? 10. We call them the 10 LSMs, Living Standards Measurements, right? With LSM 10 being the highest and LSM 1 being the lowest. We have our 10 different class groups as defined by our marketing people. Okay? So LSM 1, just think about the most informal settlement, just by the side of the river, think of LSM 10 as those big colonial estates, and we are all the shades of grey in the middle. Okay? So my personal way of understanding the LSMs is through transport. I think transport best reflects it for me, right? So I have jumped in my life between LSM 4 and 6, and in the best times of my life, LSM 7. Like most millennials, we've had a volatile one. Okay? So LSM 4 to 6-ish, we take taxis. LSM like 6 and up, we drive cars, right? LSM 7-ish to 10-ish, no, LSM 7-ish to 9-ish takes Gautrain. LSM 4 and under Metro Rail. Okay, that's how I wrap my heads around the LSMs, living standards measurements. And you should go do, if you don't know what your LSM is, go find any LSM calculator on the internet, and then you can just figure it out. Right, it's a very interesting exercise. Okay? And why do I want to mention the LSMs? Because at the end of the day, the people most sold out are the people near the bottom of that graph. LSM 1, 2, 3, 4. And even in an ANC government, the way they tell the narrative, you would have them believe they were the only freedom fighters. There were almost no other freedom fighters that weren't them, right? And not just limited to their little WhatsApp group of just them, within their own WhatsApp group, just their race, right? So, and then what happens? At the expense of their race, where? In the bottom LSMs, right? I cannot look back to a time since the British Union of South Africa that anybody has cared about LSM 1, LSM 2, LSM 3. Right? All of the LSMs down have been collateral damage in different ways to different degrees. How do I elegantly sum that up by doing justice to everybody? I'm only one person and I'm trying. Okay? But ultimately, I see us as a country that has been human trafficked for our resources to everybody, through the lens of anybody that wants to extract. It's South Africa, the land of milk and honey, milk and honey, milk and honey. And then the moment they no longer have control, I'll take Britain for example, then it's, that naughty South Africa. Do you see what they're doing? And then next thing it's that violent South Africa. Oh, that South Africa is crumbling. Oh, no. Okay? Just through the British lens there. Similarly, through the illegal immigrant lens, and I'm going to be fair, the illegal immigrant does not have the colonial machinery and history behind him as Britain did. But whether let's say you come and bulldoze my firstborn, you bulldozed him to death, nah? That doesn't mean now that 15 years later, I want you to come to my secondborn and ride over him with a motorbike, right? Well, no, look, they bulldozed your firstborn. Look, he did this. Why can't I kill this child? No. Okay? No. So you're the land of milk and honey. Then when you don't comply, you are rabid xenophobes and nothing else. When Britain was doing all their propaganda around South Africa, we were the land of milk and honey. Go and watch a lot of their propaganda movies or whatever. And the minute they weren't there, then we were rabid racists. And the only thing going on ever was apartheid, and they had absolutely no responsibility, But when you go and read about pre-apartheid laws, Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act, if you actually go and get the PDFs and read them, just the intro line, Population Registration Act, Separate Amenities Act, they will always start by, be it enacted in the name of the king. See what I'm saying? But at the bottom, for everybody, has been this bottom LSM. And the more you are close to LSM 1 and 2 and 3, and the darker your skin and everything, you've been collateral damage. But then it's not to say that the lighter your skin, you haven't been collateral damage in a different way, because even when you have made efforts to correct that, the collective rage or whatever at the machinery that you represent in the collective mind is so angry with you that even when you're well-meaning, you are then scapegoated. And this is irrespective of whether or not you gave your life, irrespective of whether or not you were in solitary confinement, irrespective of whether or not you were also the most hated by your own when you try and speak up for so-and-so. This is a difficult conversation to have, so if I'm not being that articulate, please give me grace, guys. I am not divorced from the reality of South Africa, and I don't want to represent a rainbowism that is, okay? But there's just been too much for too long that one person can say with any kind of elegance. Right? How do I sum all of this up? This is a lot, miss. This is plenty. Look at that. Like, trying to say it all. But at the end of the day, whoever's been at the driving seat of our nation, I say they've human trafficked us, okay? Whether it's for country trafficked, whatever you want to call it. Whether it's for our gold or our diamonds or our resources. Whether it's the rand manipulation. Whether it's allowing illegal immigrants in. Whether it's mining, blah, 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 blah. The world looks at us as a graph and a chart, not as human beings, when it's time to extract from South Africa. And then she'll get a nice little advert. But when it's time to abuse her, then she somehow gets all of these narratives of how terrible she is. Doesn't matter what color the person's skin, clearly. Doesn't matter how much positional power they do and don't have. Doesn't matter any of that. That has been a consistent theme. Consistent theme. And many of them, like in this documentary, they talk about how London was dinguses, dependent on us. And you know, then today you look at illegal miners, mus. You see what I'm saying? But we're just a city built on honeycombs, right? With mines underneath it here in Joburg. That's what we are, a hole to be extracted from. We're just a graph. Well, this is just how we see. Doesn't matter by which people in authority. Look at that. That's the graph we are. How must I say all of this elegantly? Just a place to be taken from. Whether the thing is a commodity like gold or diamonds or coal, or whether it's just groceries. And at the bottom, who's always collateral damage? The poorer and the blacker the person is. But with so much nuance. So I'm going to keep working on this narrative and I'll try and say all of it. But for now, what I want to say is thank you. Thank you to the boomer generation of South Africa. Thank you to the Gen X generation of South Africa. You are the coolest, most resilient, most intelligent people in the world. You have overcome such a variety of impossible experiences. It is unfathomable. If I think of like a boomer who lived in South Africa, was born in a South Africa that had pounds and miles and inches and yards, then so much changed to a South Africa that had rands. Then so much changed to South Africa that had randellas. Just the currency change, just the 3 different flags you've lived under, just the amount of anthems you've had to learn. First you were singing for the fatherland. Then yesterday, you have been through a rocky time and somehow you've managed to give millions of South African children a happy childhood. And you've managed to do that with an incredible amount of stress on your backs. And only when your back was against the wall did you let us see the worst in you. When you needed to be brave so that your children don't see you being cowards. And you've had to stand up in different phases of South Africa to gun violence. You've had to stand up to everything from hijacking to break-ins, the apartheid government breaking into your house. You've had to serve jail time. And you've had people ungrateful for your contribution. And you've often just been treated as collateral damage. And yet, you've done such an extraordinary job. And as you bow out in the coming years, and as you are laid to rest, I want you to know that at least I am so grateful, because I don't just see you as people, I see you as walking textbooks. And many other people don't have that privilege. Like an American now can't just run into Abraham Lincoln and his fellows. Do you know what I mean? We still have our historical heroes all around us. And I also want to say that I forgive you. I forgive you for the bad decisions you made when you were in impossible circumstances. And I also forgive you for the bad decisions you made out of fear, which has cost my generation and the younger generation so much. Because I certainly know that in your shoes, I wouldn't have been able to do better. It takes just one visit to Constitution Hill and just close yourself up in like for 10 minutes in those solitary confinement cells. And especially the one that I'm most frightened of is upstairs. Because at least the tour tells you about what happened downstairs at Black Man's Cell, where black, colored, and Indian people were kept. The white man one, nobody explains it, so you just have to have this felt sense, and you just put yourself there for 10 minutes. I know your generation, I wouldn't have had half your courage. I used to fantasize that I would until I went to that prison and closed myself up in those cells. And you know the cell where the number system was created in the Black Man Quarter? I couldn't sleep there. You know, they were so overcrowded. And where I met a young woman, I mean, she's an auntie to me, but she was a young woman when she was unnecessarily taken to that prison, and heard about how women were examined and the underwear they couldn't wear. I couldn't do that for anyone else's freedom. I'm sorry. So you've been an amazing generation. And there's so much I want to say. Like, there are people I wish hadn't gotten amnesty. I'm sorry. You know? Because there are still wounded people who had this and this and that done to them. Genital mutilation. A son murdered brutally that the mom never got justice for. Stuff like that. And then on the other hand, you'll have young people going, I don't care about white feelings. And then you're talking literally to a white anti-apartheid activist without any weight of what happened in the darkest corners of this country. You didn't get woke points in the 80s. You didn't get woke points in the 70s for being pro-black. There was no such thing. You got labels like Volksverräter at best. At worst, unspeakable torture. So there's too much for me to say elegantly in one video. But I don't want to shy away from our racial past, and I don't want to sit and sugarcoat the ANC legacy, and I don't want us to let the GNU off the hook. because we don't have to choose just between two abusive options. It doesn't have to be, okay, so at least he doesn't hit me. This one's just cheating on me. Okay, but he's bringing back AIDS. Yeah, but that one beat me and robbed me of my money. And you just leave me here. But he'd leave, at least he left the groceries. But he would make sure that I had no money or whatever. This one doesn't leave any groceries. And my wallet is just empty. I just turn around and he's gambling all the money. Did you see? You don't have to choose between two abusive options. There is the option of going single as a country, which is how I see the GNU at the moment. And there also is the option of literally, there is the option of so many better things. And I hope one day I can remind you, no matter what the period was, no man, Nikina, where's the movie man? No matter what the period was, I hope I can remind you that South Africa had so many good things. And if we put all the good ingredients together, that's the South Africa we can have. That's the South Africa. Instead of nitpicking and complaining, we can take all the things from former regimes that were good and acknowledge them and build on them. And we can take all the good parts of this and you build a recipe for success. So this has been Nuance with Nikki, one of my least elegant videos, one of the hardest to articulate. I will continue to try, but my aim in this is to stay in integrity. It's to stay in integrity. It's a real country. It's not a fairy tale. There's too much healing to be done now. We got out of hospital with cancer only to go and get pneumonia. While not having the operation on our knees and our legs for the car accident we had before. Does that make sense? If you could see British colonialism as a car accident in which we wounded our legs deeply, and then you can see the apartheid government as us now coming with getting down to stage 4 cancer, then we recover, and then just as we're recovering, see the ANC as pneumonia. Now we're recovering from the pneumonia, but every now and then a bit of regression into cancer, but then coming out of it, and then we still haven't done the operation that needs to be done on the legs to get us to walk. You see what I'm saying? So basically, can everybody stop beating up the country? Nurture her. Nurture her. Keep her away from too many visitors. She needs to be in ward. She needs to recover. She needs to be pampered. She needs a chance to rest. And then a chance to be rehabilitated. And that kind of rehabilitation doesn't take one kind of specialist. Okay? You need doctors, you need nurses, you need physios, you need the neurologist and the urologist and the gynecologist and all the ologists that I can't pronounce. And someone, because her teeth were kicked out, you need the dentist. It's a whole reconstruction. The dietitian, do you know what I mean? So next time you go to a private hospital and go and visit, think about every single kind of specialist you need. Think about whether or not you care what color which one is. Think about if all you care about is just their training and their ethics. Because that's what South Africa needs. Okay? She's still our beautiful girl. She's still our girl that has gone through too much. And there is no cavalry coming. There are no knights in shining armor. No one's coming to rescue us. Okay? We're on our own and we've got to nurse this child back to health. And that doesn't come from pretending everything is hunky-dory, rosy-posy. Okay? So I've tried to do this. I've been very vulnerable. But I'm not here to pretend that this is a fairy tale. I'm not here to pretend that our country is a fairy tale. And I can't even elegantly find the footage I was supposed to end on. Nuance with the nitty gritty, even if it's shitty or messy. Thank you.